Welcome to Valuable Coaching. Today we're lucky enough to have great coach from Cal Poly, Jason Borchin. And Kevin here is going to give us a little more background on him.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Coach Borchin. Coach Borchin is the proud son of Christy and Robert Borchin. He was born in Roseville, California, played club volleyball at NCBC, also played water polo in high school. After high school, interesting story about Coach Borchin, he went to Sac State and was majoring in nursing. After he was there, he was playing at the University of the Pacific at a club tournament where Coach Joe Wortman of the University of the Pacific checked him out after he hit about 570. He was asked to play at the University of the Pacific. He went and played for the Tigers, 3 years starter as an outside hitter, majored in sports pedagogy. After college, Coach Borchin went right to Sac State and was assistant coach along with being a head beach volleyball coach. After Sac State, he cruised on down to Cal Poly, where he was hired by another former Tiger, Coach Sam Crossan. He was there for 2 years, and then he went over to Notre Dame University, was there for a while, and then now he's back at Cal Poly as the associate head volleyball coach on the indoor. He is lucky to be married to Jessie Borchin. They've been married for probably about 3 years now. And
Sounds right.
we just have a wonderful son, Colton Borchin, who is now 6 months. So welcome to the show, Coach Borchin. Thanks for being on.
Yeah. Thank you for that introduction. That makes me feel a little old, but no, happy to be here and talk with you guys.
All right, yeah. I think we're all feeling a little older after that introduction. But we first want to start off with kind of how did you get your start in volleyball? I know for all of us, we kind of have different stories of how we got started, but I want to find out from you how you got started in playing this great sport.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's probably through my family. My parents played in a Monday night rec league my entire life growing up, so I was just kind of always around the sport, and I was always dragged to the gym and had to run around the stage while they played. And luckily, my junior high team was lucky enough to have a team, so I started playing then, and then played in high school, and then started club when I was 16. So been around the sport for a while.
So, Coach Borchin, what coaches while you were in high school and in college had a huge impact on your life, and what type of things got you involved in wanting to be a coach?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think two people, kind of my big influences growing up, were Michael Beavis. He was my 17s club coach, and he just kind of instilled just playing. He would come out and play grass with us all the time and just encourage us to keep playing and get as many touches as we can. And I developed a pretty nice relationship with him. And then the other would be Tim Funk, who just another person who helped coach. Actually grew up with his son. Ryan Funk. We played volleyball growing up together. And again, just kind of instilled the love of the game, just wanting to play as much as you can. And I think that's something we try to hammer home is one way to get better at volleyball is just to play it as much as you can in any different way, indoors, grass, beach, touching the ball is always going to be a good thing.
So what kind of impact did playing college volleyball have on your career path and your journey in volleyball?
Yeah, it had a major impact. I think how you can, my path in playing was very unique in the sense I essentially played college club for 2 years, and I think I developed and grew a lot during that time and physically. And then, I luckily enough got the opportunity to play at University of Pacific for Joe Wortman and Jeff Hall. And just kind of through that experience, just how coaches can really shape your lives and, really push you on and off the court. So I owe a lot to those guys for taking a chance on me after seeing me play one time. So forever thankful for them, but it just really kind of inspired in me what I kind of wanted to do. And I think I knew pretty early on I wanted to get into coaching. And, luckily enough, I was able to start at Sac State 2 weeks after I graduated University of the Pacific.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, Coach Borchin, I think that's something that's very unique about you. Can you kind of dive more into, you essentially got hired at a university at the age of 22. You're coaching 18, 21 years old. It's very common for people of that age to be like a graduate assistant, but you went right into it and went right to Sac State. Can you talk about what that process was like and what was it like being a 22-year-old?
Yeah,
volleyball coach D1.
very fortunate. So my second year at Sac State, I helped with the women's program. Was kind of like a volunteer assistant. Did a lot of playing and kind of learned data volley, all the kind of ins and outs of little things. And I kept in touch with Ruben Volta, who had become the head coach. And luckily enough, they had an assistant spot opening up. And so actually during my senior season at University of Pacific, I went and interviewed with Ruben, and I owe him a lot for taking a chance, like you said, on a 22-year-old with really only club coaching experience. And I got to work with him a little bit when I volunteered, so he knew me kind of on that level. But very fortunate for him to take that chance on me, and really just kind of started my path down this coaching career.
So really, once you got going into coaching, if you could talk a little bit about your philosophy? Kind of dive into maybe what you look for in players, how you like to go about structuring practices. I know you're an assistant, but I know that's one of the big roles assistants can play. Is helping.
Yeah. No, I definitely think one of the biggest philosophies is discipline, in the sense that these girls, they have to know what is being asked of them at all times. We can't get mad at them if we haven't taught them the right mechanics, footwork patterns, eye sequencing, all these different things. So just being disciplined in the sense that they need to know what to do in all these different situations. And it's our job to prepare them for these situations. And that, it encapsulates kind of what we do as a program is, off the court as well, of taking care of our business in the classroom. Last year we had the highest team GPA in the athletic department at Cal Poly, which is a very tough academic school. So that's something I'm also very proud of the girls, not only winning on the court, winning championships, making runs in the NCAA tournament, but we're doing great things in the classroom as well. So I'm really happy with kind of how we've done that and built that up here at Cal Poly. And the practice plans, it's the same thing, just kind of like I talked about. It's how can we set these girls up for success? So we got to teach them the skills kind of in tutor sessions, give them opportunities to fail and learn through that. And then put them into that live situation and kind of put more stressors on them so they can start over time. It just becomes a habitual habit to do these motions, do these eye sequencings. So at the most valuable time, 24, 23, they can trust in their training that we've set them up to be successful in those situations.
So you've obviously coached under some really great coaches. We talked about Coach Ruben. Obviously, we both know Coach Sam Crossan. Now he's at Cal. He hired you at Cal Poly. Obviously, you've been at Notre Dame. How did those coaches kind of shape what you're doing as a coach now, and how did they shape your life, those guys?
Yeah, I think I'm very fortunate because all the coaches I've worked under are very different, and they've given me different tools to kind of build, I think, who I am. Sam Crossan, when I came to Cal Poly in 2015, he gave me a ton of freedom. Go out and recruit the kids you want to recruit, the type of athletes you want to recruit. He gave me a lot of freedom to kind of, I think, build ideas and principles that I want to try to recruit. And so that was great. And then, my experience at Notre Dame, I learned a lot of good things. And just like anything, you learn things you like, things you don't like. And I think through all this time, kind of when I started my collegiate coaching career in 2010, I've really been able to, I think, morph what I really believe in. And I'm very lucky now to be working with Caroline Walters, who shares so many of the same beliefs that I do. It's so fun working with her. We're not afraid to challenge each other. I think this is, and it always comes from the sense of what's best for the program. And I think that's what's great, that she knows that and I know that. There's been times in matches this last season where I really wanted to do this defensively. She wasn't as sure. She trusted me. It worked out. In the first round of the NCAA tournament, we were playing Georgia. And I was kind of going back and forth on what we want to do. She's like, I think this is going to be best for us. We ended up going with what she wanted there, and it worked out great. So I think that trust between her and I is just phenomenal. And it's been really fun to just kind of grow this program with her. I'm really happy with the direction we're going and the type of student athletes we have in our program. It's a very exciting time right now.
You kind of brought up recruiting. When it comes to recruiting, and you go out there, what are you looking for when you're recruiting athletes? If you could, again, just kind of go into that, we want student athletes who might hear this to really know what coaches want to see out of them. And obviously it's got to be a little bit more, I think, than just a great volleyball player.
Yeah. I know. I think it's really easy to look at the kids that jump really high and hit really hard. Unfortunately, it's not everyone can get all those types of kids. As much as love to get all the Stanford kids, we can't get those. So, I think for us, it's really intangibles about who a person is. I think to our third team All-American, Maya Dvorchak, who, I was the only person to offer her a scholarship. And it was just more about who she was. I went to a practice. She's diving through chairs. I remember I called Sam and I was like, hey, we need this kid in the gym. And I was like, I don't know if she's ever going to play for us, but I was like, she's going to raise the level of our gym. And so I think really more who a person is, because we can teach them volleyball. I think we're confident enough in our teaching abilities and our training philosophies and our principles that we know we can make kids better volleyball players. So are they going to have the intangibles to do the extra things? Watch extra videos, stay after practice, extra reps. So those are the type of kids. I think we have a lot of those kids in our program. And I think that's why we've had a lot of recent successes. Everyone's kind of like-minded in the sense that we can always be doing more to benefit the program.
Yeah, to touch up on that, it seems like you're building the whole athlete at Cal Poly. That's pretty awesome. And it's evident in the kids that I've met, that you've coached, that I've been around. But is there any in particular that really have done some things really well professionally outside of volleyball? Because they're there to be student athletes. They're there to get a degree. And most people, don't go play professionally. Or if they do, it's for a little bit of time. And they have to eventually be a mom and have a profession. What are your former student athletes up to nowadays?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Something we always say to them is volleyball is going to end for you at some point or another. And to set yourself up with the best degree possible. So we have a lot of former players that are getting into coaching. Even my club players back when I'm in Sacramento, I keep in touch with them, and a lot of them are getting into college coaching, and I try to help and mentor them through that. A couple of our recent graduates, one's a materials engineer. So she was actually interning last summer through the Department of Defense, and just doing some amazing things. And I actually toured the engineering department with her, and the stuff I heard about half of what she was saying, I could understand in my brain. She was just so smart, and I know just going to do some great things. We have current person on our team who's aerospace engineering. So again, it's just, I think that's what's really exciting is all these different majors that kids are going to go into. And I think Poly's lucky to offer a lot of different things. I have a lot of kids that want to be a teacher and kind of those avenues. So it's really exciting. I think obviously we love our time with them, and that's great. I love the relationship aspect of it, of following these kids' careers and what they do, and watching alumni come back, and being so proud of kind of where the program is now. For a while, back in the early kind of 2000s, Cal Poly was not very good, and I think we won our first Big West Championship 2017. Those girls come back and are just so happy with how things are going, and they want to give back and help out in any way that they can. So it creates a real nice family atmosphere, and that's what we want, is not just you to have a great, amazing 4 or 5 years when you're an athlete, but to keep being a part of this program, and that's something that we really strive for.
So, Cal Poly definitely is a tough school, and all of us kind of have experienced, obviously, there's practice, there's other time spent lifting weights, and then you got to balance that with the classroom. How do you deal with players who are coming to you that are really feeling this kind of the stress and anxiety of being able to take care of all those different aspects as a student athlete?
Yeah, it's a big thing, and I think the best thing that we can do is we just encourage and support them as much as possible. We want you to graduate with a degree, and that's the most important thing. So we have players that maybe have to come late to practice because they need to take this class, or maybe have to miss a day of practice, and obviously that's what's best for them. And we try to schedule that around as best as we can, but we need you to graduate here with a degree that you feel valued in. And so whatever we can do, we want to give you the resources to do that. Cal Poly is very lucky that all their teachers have mandated office hours. So tutoring, go talk to your professors. I think that's the biggest thing. Cal Poly's school motto is learn by doing. So we're always just kind of constantly preaching that of, doing the extra thing, and how can we be better about talking to professors, getting that hands-on learning and physically interacting with these teachers, because this is what's going to kind of set you up for the rest of your life, is kind of building these relationships and learning how to talk to people. And, if you're not getting the grade you want, how can you better prepare for this? Same thing on the court. If you're not playing, okay, how can we get you better? You need to pass more. Okay, let's watch video. Let's do extra reps. Nothing changes academically. It's just the same thing over and over. What can you do to best prepare yourself to play, to get a great degree, to get that best grade in your class?
To make a little bit of a pivot here, for us, like club coaches, high school coaches, that's what Coach Miles and I do. You're part of a top 25 program, and there's not a professional women's volleyball in the United States. So at times, it could be a little lonely on top in the sense where how do you, Coach Borchin, find ways to professionally grow? Where for us, people like us, we can just go talk to the Cal Poly coach and pick his brain or go watch college volleyball. What do you do to stay sharp to make sure you're getting the best for your program?
Yeah, it's a lot, just kind of like my experiences so far as a coach. It's good or bad situations, and programs are struggling. Not there's always probably some value that they can bring. So just listening to someone talk, it might just trigger something for you that like, oh, that could be useful for my program, or I can talk to our athletes about that. It's just always learning. It's just how can we be a little bit better and pick up something. We have our core beliefs and core principles, but there's still always a lot of different things that we can do in the gym, outside the gym, that can make our program as a whole better. So I think not having an ego to a degree, it's just, how can we learn? Talking with you guys, I'm sure I could watch you practice and be like, oh, I like something that you did there. Everyone has something, and everyone has a unique experience that shaped who they are as a coach, as an athlete. And you can always pick up something. So never being afraid to ask those questions, because you never know what could help your program, win one more match because you picked up something.
To go back kind of to the practice idea, do you guys at Cal Poly, do you like to run a lot of drills that are really like game focused? Is there a lot of skill work? Is it a mix? And really, how long do you like to structure your practices? Because I know as high school and club coaches, we're always trying to figure out kind of what best practices are out there. And I know other people would really like to see how some of those top programs are running their practices.
Yeah, definitely, when we're in season, it's probably nothing more than 2 hours. And, kind of how we structure practice, in the off season, we might go a little bit longer, 2.5. And then if girls want to, give some time, if girls want to stay and get extra reps at certain things. In terms of structuring practice, we always want to have kind of a tutor build up time, whatever we want to focus on. We played some sets to 15 last week, and it was like our outside hitters transition wasn't that good. So on Monday, we did just kind of an outside hitter transition drill. And so we want to give them the skills. So give them kind of a tutor session to learn. And then we always want to learn while we're competing. So the game is chaos. And so the more we can train in that chaos and learn these situations and learn how these responses happen in the chaos, then that's what's going to happen in the game. And those are the responses that we're going to have. So, we definitely always have like a tutor session of whatever we're working on, outside hitters, middles, hitting gaps, just different things. And then we want to incorporate that into a live situation. So, there is always kind of flow for practice. We want to set our middles the ball more. So, okay, maybe we'll give bonus points for middles attacking in this drill. So little things like that, but we always want to train and compete as much as we can, because that's how the game is won and lost in all those chaos, and how can we better each contact. So we want to put the girls in those situations as much as we can.
When we're talking about practice, Coach Borchin, lately I've been watching a lot of Pac-12 games, Big Ten, and I've noticed, Stanford, all of a sudden I was like, whoa, that's a D-ball. They're setting a D-ball right there. And I've noticed that there's also lately a lot of hires in the women's game where they're hiring former men's volleyball players like yourself, or people like Brad Keller was on the men's side, Dan Fisher was on the men's side, Coach Crossan was on the men's side. What is something that you think that helped you as a men's volleyball player that you've got to brought to Cal Poly, or that you brought to Notre Dame or Sac State? And do you also, to follow up on that, do you think that now the women's game will start looking at the D-ball and do something that the men's game is doing?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things is attacking out of the back row. That has definitely grown in the women's game. Us at Cal Poly, we love it. We ran a good amount of D-balls last year to our lefty. We ran a lot of Bicks. We love running fast out of the back row. So that's something kind of in the recruiting process too, that we want to make sure that we always have someone attacking out of the back row for us. It's an added weapon, an added arm, and you just got to train it just like anything else. So, I do see a lot of kind of those men's coaches coming over and trying to implement some of the things that work really well in the men's game. It's just like anything, you just need training reps with it, but it's something that we value a lot at Cal Poly is having that extra attacker run out of the back row at all times.
I think now too, I think in my own situation, do you still enjoy getting out there and playing? Do you still find times to play on your own? Or is that something that now is kind of come and gone?
Yeah, it's kind of past my time now. I like to sit back and just kind of coach. Every now and then I'll hop in and play. But we'll leave that up for the young practice players or volunteers to kind of do that. And outside of that, I don't play that much anymore. Occasionally we'll play some beach volleyball. It's just tough, especially now having a newborn son. Kind of that free time is lost a little bit. But we did just get 5 new beach courts built at Cal Poly right next to the gym. So before quarantine happened, kind of in February, I was out there playing a good amount with our other assistant coach then. So I do try to play. If I do probably play, it's more beach volleyball, a little easier on the body nowadays. But yeah, probably not playing as much as I definitely want to.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because you mentioned your son Colton, and if you really follow your career, I think it's interesting. Sometimes you reap what other coaches sow. For example, like after you left Sac State, they were really good for like 2 years, and those were a lot of your recruits. Or for example, after you left Cal Poly, they continued to be good. And even when you got there, you would even tell me, you're like, a lot of this has to do with what Sam and Chris and Caroline has set up for me. And also when you left Notre Dame, like Notre Dame's rolling right now. So my point is it seems to me wherever you go, there's some success, which is awesome. But how are you balancing that success and also being an awesome father for your 6-month-old and you're newlywed, married for 3 years? How do you balance that, Coach?
Yeah, I think it's definitely tough, and I have to give a lot of credit first to my wife for just being super supportive with doing all the different moves, and then being gone a lot in season, on the road. I think it's really nice to have that support back home to balance out everything. I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of great people. I've helped with this success for a lot of these different programs. A lot of people put in a lot of work before me. It's definitely a group effort, just like anything else. I can't sit here and take all the credit for other team success. It's definitely a group effort, and like I said, I've been very fortunate to work with some good people and some better student athletes that have put in this work, and it just makes me happy. My last year at Sac State, I think we started 5 freshmen, and I think we finished the year like 9-23, and I think we lost like 8 games in 5 in conference. Just something brutal that was crushing, and so I knew that team was going to be good. They just needed to learn and grow, and so I was happy for Ruben and that program to have a lot of success after I left. And then kind of same thing at Poly. I got there in 2015. It was kind of a building. We were building. We knew we had some nice pieces. And then to win that championship in 2017 was just an awesome feeling of kind of all the work that everyone had put in. And so it's just more rewarding, that you had a hand in that, however small or big. It's just a nice feeling, whether you're there or not, that you help elevate this program. And that's kind of the end goal, is just always elevating wherever you go to. How can we get this program better than where we're at now?
I know I'm a father as well. Did you feel like your coaching style at all or anything has changed much now that you've become a father? I know for me, I view life in kind of a lot different lens once I had kids.
Yeah.
Versus before that. And I think of some of the times too, maybe I took the free time I had for granted. So what's kind of changed for you in the last 6 months or so?
Yeah, it's I don't know if anything, more patience, I guess. And I think as I get older too, that's probably, I've just gotten more patient, and people need time to learn. And I was actually very fortunate because my son was born in April. We went into quarantine in March, and the girls were all scared that I was going to come to practice, just not slept at all, and I was just going to yell at them the whole time. So they were a little relieved that they didn't have to kind of go through that. But it's been great, and it's just learning. It's definitely a different change when I come home. You just don't get to sit on the couch and throw on Netflix. You got to help out and do all these things, which it's been a great experience. And I through all this COVID has been a lot of downs, but one upside of this has just been spending a lot of time with my son at home. Because normally I'd be on the road recruiting and coaching, and I'd be pretty busy. So I'm very lucky I got to spend a lot of time with him, especially in those early months. So I know a lot of people don't get to do that. So I was very fortunate to be able to get to do that.
You mentioned COVID and quarantine. What are some of the strategies you did right when it happened during the pandemic while school was still in session? What were some ways you stayed connected with the girls? What activities did you do? Or did you give them a lot of academic freedom to just kind of have some time for themselves?
Yeah, the biggest thing for us was just make sure that they were still doing everything they need to do academically. And so we want to give them a lot of support with that. And we didn't want to, every coach probably handles this differently. We didn't want to overwhelm them with volleyball. I think it got to a point after that first month that we're like, hey, we know we're not coming back for the rest of the spring. So we didn't want to enamor them, and like they had enough things going, and we just want them to really focus on school. So we kind of do a Monday check-in, any updates on our end that had come about. And then, we normally just did like small group video sessions just to kind of keep them engaged in the game a little bit. And then just more focused on the academic side, because again, we just wanted them to really make sure that they're setting themselves up for whenever they graduate and that they didn't skip a beat. And so to their credit, they did a phenomenal job. And I think as a coaching staff, we're really happy with everything that they did.
I know when you look at career and life, what's probably the most fulfilling part of being a coach, and why really do you continue on that path when it takes a lot of time?
Yeah. I think just as I've gotten older and gone through this, I think you start to really develop kind of a sense of who you are and what is really important to you. I think through the last couple of years, I've really kind of found what's important to myself, my family, and the biggest thing is relationships. And wins and losses are going to come, championships are going to come, and those are going to fade over time. But I think the impact that we can have on these student athletes is my biggest reason to coach. I love seeing our alumni, whether coaching club or they come back for matches, they come back in town and want to go grab a drink with us. And then we get to laugh about all the stories that, times that went on, and do you remember this practice and that? And it's just, you had a small part in developing someone, and the rest of their life, I think is really rewarding and something that I definitely cherish. It's just so fun to watch these girls grow up and do amazing things in their careers, families down the road. It's a fun thing that special thing that we get to be a part of. And it's definitely the most valuable part of coaching for me.
Being a resident of Southern California, I constantly have high school student athletes coming up to me and saying, I want to go to Cal Poly. They list why it's so important to go there, which you and I both know why it's a great school and it's a great program. Other than the fact of hitting the ball really well or passing nails or setting, really, consistent hittable balls, what is something, because, one of your roles at Cal Poly, you are the lead recruiting coordinator, the associate head coach. What is something, if a recruit's listening, what's something that you put an asterisk next to a kid's name saying, I'm going to watch that kid a few more times just because they did this in the gym, their character that they showed me? What's something that jumps out at you?
Yeah, I think something that we always try to do is go to practices. I think it's really easy to compete hard at a national qualifier, when all these coaches are watching you. But what are you going to do on a Tuesday night when you had a full day of school? And who knows what goes on outside of that. So those are the type of things we want to see. Just little things, are you running to shag the balls? It doesn't sound very big, but, you see kids walking and then you see the kids that are running. And even during games, do you bring your own water bottle, or does your mom and dad have to bring your water bottle for you? And just little things that And again, there's thousands and thousands of girls across the country. So how are you trying to separate yourself? So I think just all these little intangible items are things that really can separate when athletes may be very comparable in a lot of different areas. Just these little things I think can really separate you in the long run.
I've only seen it in a few programs, but do you think something else that might separate like high school student athletes is if they've had some experience in weight training and conditioning really before they come? Because I know a lot of athletes I've had at high school, they're basically just playing volleyball. They just play volleyball club, and they don't really do anything else to condition their body besides play volleyball. I know that was a big shock to me when I got to school, was how much extra conditioning on top of what I had already been doing. I really probably should have.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's a valuable tool, and it's something that I wish I did a lot more of kind of in the high school. I think it's become more prevalent, especially in clubs and high schools, to start involving a weight training program, and just if nothing else, just from an injury standpoint. And I think that's the biggest thing, that when we get these kids at the college level, of a lot of these kids might be broken down, stress fractures, and most time they're playing for club, on concrete and convention centers. Like, it's not the most forgiving surface. So for you to have like some good strength and stability behind that, I think will go a long way. So I think it makes their transition a lot easier to college if they have a background in strength and conditioning. It's something that we, try to encourage our girls to, hey, make sure you're lifting. And, if your high school does have a program, like, get signed up for it, because it's just going to make things easier. Because like you said, Miles, it's a big transition. No matter how good you are, no matter what program you're going to, it's a big transition from high school to the college level. So any way you can ease that transition is just going to make your life that much easier.
Yeah, and to talk a little bit more about recruiting, as a club volleyball coach, I've realized in the 7-8 years I've done it, and it's understandable, the families and the kids really are not too knowledgeable about the process of it. There's a lot to it. You got to go on an unofficial, then an official. You got to take your ACTs, your SATs. There's a lot that goes into it. Can you discuss how young are you recruiting these athletes so they get an idea? I mean, I know on the men's side, they kind of start getting looked at sophomore, junior year. What are the ages where you're going and really evaluating students?
Yeah, I think we start marking kids kind of down when we're freshmen in high school. And just kind of watch their development. Some kids are maybe going to blossom a little bit more and some won't. So you want to have a good kind of lead up to when we can talk to them, after their sophomore year of high school. So just to kind of have a background of how much they've grown. So if you do call a club coach, this kid's really been putting in work, over the last year. And it's like, yeah, I can see that too. I'm seeing the growth. So, it's not like we spend a ton of time when they're that young, but we definitely want to go around and mark kids down, and to just, again, see how they develop into that next, kind of 15s year. Have they been developing? Have they been spending time on their game? Maybe lifting weights? So all these little things. So the more kind of think data points that we can have on some student athletes, just the better it's going to make our job.
Something you said early on, and it was about your playing career, that you spent a couple of years playing club in college before you were able to move on. Is that something as a recruiter that you also explore, as possible community colleges or lower levels? And are you looking in those areas?
Yeah, it's tough. Not probably as much at Cal Poly. Cal Poly is a really tough school to get into as a freshman, and then kind of even harder at times as a transfer. And so not as much, but we definitely don't leave any stone unturned. A kid emails us. We always want to do our due diligence to watch the video and make sure that we're not missing anything. But Cal Poly has some tough academic standards. So not as much. I think when I was at Sac State, I think we definitely looked at the local JCs a little bit more. And not say it doesn't happen, but probably definitely not as much at Cal Poly.
Speaking of Cal Poly, and this is just a philosophy that you and Coach Caroline, probably have to discuss. Is, are you the type of coaches that champion if one of your student athletes maybe for a summer studies abroad and has to do with their major, or maybe they're part of a club on campus that is an academic club, or I don't even know. Maybe, do you let your student athletes join sororities? What's kind of your take as a program on your student athletes doing other things on college campus?
Yeah, we haven't had many kids study abroad. I think kind of the biggest things is trying to be really flexible with summer internships, because most of the girls, school ends around June 15th. They'll go home for a couple weeks and then normally back around July 5th and working out and playing open gyms and getting in the weight room. So some of our kids, need to set up internships for their jobs. And so they maybe have to miss. And I think they've been really good about checking in with their teammates and make sure that they're putting in the work too, staying in shape. Again, volleyball is going to end at some point. So we want to make sure that they get set up for kind of the next chapter of their life, which is the real world. So whatever they kind of need to do in that regard, we want to make sure that we are giving them the tools and support from the coaching staff to go out and do whatever they need to do.
I think we kind of covered most of the questions we wanted to hit. Is there anything you think we missed that you want to kind of share with us, share with our audience that you think could help, again, either players or coaches that are out there?
Yeah, I think just learning and going to different camps and listening to podcasts and just slowly start to kind of build your philosophies as a coach. And there's a lot of different ways you can do things. You can coach. There's a lot of different philosophies, X's and O's, and different ways to do things. I think as a coach, the best thing you can probably do in terms of your team is getting your team to fully buy into whatever you want to do. And I think that's when your team really can hit another stride. And I think, luckily our girls have 100% bought into all the systems that we want to run. And what matters to you is kind of what matters to them. Okay, so if you let things slide, they're going to let things slide. Just little things, not getting in the correct position for a block. If you let those little things slide, they're going to come back and bite you at a really important time. So I think what really matters to you as a coach, it's going to really matter to your players. So you want to focus a lot of time on serve receive. Your players are going to start to understand that value. So whatever you're kind of doing, just have that full belief. Whatever you're doing, your players are going to buy into too. So do it to an aggressive level. And I think that's something that our players and us are always on the same page of what exactly we want from them. And this players, they do a great job of trusting in us and working extremely hard.
Coach Borchin, I have to mention this is, you have the great Coach Todd Rogers on your campus, who's a beach coach. One, I want to hear if you ever pick his brain. And two, is that kind of a recruiting philosophy that you guys share athletes and say, hey, yeah, we're going to have this kid fall out in the fall, and then they're going to go over and play for Coach Todd? What's kind of your take on that? Because Coach Todd's really brought that level to greater heights in the last couple of years, and they're knocking on the door to win a Big West title for beach.
Yeah, no, it's great. We kind of share offices, so I see Todd all the time, and we definitely do talk shop a lot. He's still very connected on the indoor side, and so we're always talking about things about the indoor side and beach side. And then we actually have a great relationship, and I know maybe some programs don't have a great relationship with their beach program, but we do. If our kids want to play both, we give them the freedom to do that. So Todd and I will dual recruit kids. We for sure have a 2021 commit who is planning on playing both. It's not easy, and I always tell them that in the recruiting process. You're essentially in season for 8 months out of the year, so it's not easy. But we want to give them the freedom to do that. And Todd and I both come at it from the standpoint of it's just helping each program, and how can we do to help elevate each program. And we want the best for each other. And so it's been a great working relationship. And it's been a lot of fun just kind of picking his brain at different times. And there's not too many gold medalists floating around. So to have one, working by you is pretty cool. And so we're definitely thankful to have him as our head beach coach and to work very closely with us.
Yeah, I think one thing that is a testament to you, Coach, that I have to share with you is obviously that Coach Crossan, Coach Thomas, they started recruiting very heavily in San Diego, and that's where Miles and I live. I've had the luxury where I've seen your former players coach, or I coached their little brother in high school, and the reality is when I go up to them, they just have the nicest things to say about you, the program, And I think it's evident in your answers. I think obviously you care about their family, you care about their life, their well-being, and we're only hearing really good things down in San Diego about Coach Borchin and Cal Poly. So keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
mean, it wasn't very long, but I mean, I remember you being in the gym when you were in high school, and how hard you worked. And I think, you know, again, that's just a testament to where you're at now. The same hard work you were putting in then has obviously paid off. So yeah, it's been great to see you kind of moving up the ranks and doing great things.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been a fun journey, and you know, I love where I'm at. You know, Cal Poly is an amazing place to work and live, and I'm very fortunate. And you know, working with Caroline has been awesome. You know, I talked a little bit about the relationships, and that's just a big thing. You know, a relationship with you guys, my former players. It's just what makes it really enjoyable. And I feel I can push them more in the gym because of that. You know, no matter if I get on them in the gym, you know, after that, if they need help with their classes or whatever, you know, they know that I'm here for them. And so it's just a big aspect of it. And I think it just makes this process a lot more enjoyable, having those relationships. So appreciate you guys' time. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We're glad to have you as our first guest, and we look forward to seeing great things from you in the upcoming months.
Okay? Go Mustangs.
Go Mustangs. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.